Hey everybody, this is Brett Fogle with this week's edition. I guess we'll call it TA Thursdays, and we're going to go through some of what's moving the markets here, take a look at some of the charts here in the cryptocurrency space. So with that, why don't we dive into everything? But please do like the channel, subscribe if you haven't below. And again, thanks to Max for having me on to join you guys. It's been a lot of fun and enjoying your comments. So thanks very much. So the news this week, the big news was Michael Saylor stepping down as CEO of MicroStrategy. And so while it didn't really move the markets much, it's interesting. A lot of people were commenting on this and thought it was maybe negative news. Of course, reading into it, Michael just basically wants to focus on focusing on his Bitcoin acquisition. So he's handed over the CE role to his, this is over here on their website, to his former head over there, and he's going to be running the actual business. Michael's going to double down and focus on basically Bitcoin acquisition. So really not a lot of news there, and we can sort of dismiss that, but it was important and interesting. The reality is, though, that Michael's he's not in a position where he can be voted off the board, and some people are spreading some fear over that. He's got 10x voting rights and controls 67% of the shares, the voting rights, as I understand. And I've got a mutual friend that's also have confirmed this privately. And so anyway, not to worry about that. So let's take a look at the charts, because I'm a firm believer, show me the charts, I'll tell you the news. So what's going on here? Now, we've been sort of hugging around this level on around the 20,000 range, have pushed up a bit higher here recently, but I'm not sure. I don't think we're out of the woods here. This is a monthly chart we have been watching here in previous videos, and essentially I've drawn this, taken this this kind of pattern from the prior market cycle and stretched it out a little bit. These don't overlay exactly, but sometimes can be fairly similar. So it's possible that we're holding here at this 50-month moving average, even though it dipped down below, and for a while here on these candles held at the former high, the 20,000 levels. So that's significant, of course. So the big question is, do we bounce off from these levels and push higher over the next few months? I don't think anything's going to happen significant here in the next couple of weeks. That's the good news. You guys can go off and enjoy your summer, go enjoy your vacation, go to the beach, take the family on a road trip. This is the dead zone time of the year typically, and I've been trading and investing for 20 years, and so what happens is all the big investors and the big Wall Street traders are off in the Hamptons typically here in August. They're not doing a whole lot. They'll come back in September, and then we'll start to see some market moves when the big money comes back in. So that's my overall takeaway here for today. But with that, let's kind of look at what we're seeing on a weekly basis. So on a weekly basis, we come down and broke below this 200-week moving average, fairly important level here, and this is this purple line. So it came down below that. I do believe that we could still come down lower to the 300-week moving average, and possibly lower still. This is we're going to look at some things on a shorter time frame where I think we're in another bear flag that could take us quite a bit lower. And I've been saying that for quite some time, even though people have been saying we've put in a bottom, and now people are starting to. I was watching a YouTuber earlier today who originally said we're putting in a bottom. Now he's sort of taking the stance. What I've been saying is that we're in a bear flag and we're heading lower. So lots of opinions out there. We'll see what happens, but it's good to know what the possibilities are. So right now now this didn't hold though. I was wondering if we would hold on the weekly basis above this 200-week. As you can see, I'm using fairly simple indicators. Nothing super fancy. We're not getting into Fibonacci's and Ichimoku's, although I do use these at times. But generally, the simplest indicators give us the bigger, longer term macro signals. So it's like trying to turn a battleship around. It's kind of hard to do that on something like Bitcoin on short notice. So with that in mind, this clearly we're still in a bit of downtrend, a clear downtrend here on everything, and we can draw these channels here. And this is always good to do to kind of see where you are. And there's another tool, so you can clone this. Like that is one way to do it, and just kind of do one of these. And so that we're still in this downward channel. The question is, did we hold? Are we holding at the 200-week moving average, which broke down prior support and a significant level broke below? And now this candle here is really, it's called a spinning top. And so the fact that we are down on the week now, and I'm going to be watching very carefully, as you should be, how do we close this next weekly candle? So next Sunday, or this coming Sunday at 8 p.m., do we close in a green candle above this and firmly holding support? That would be short-term bullish, and then we could see sort of push higher to the upper ranges of this downward channel around 30,000, or do we close below? And that's going to be very significant. So if we see this candle, which is currently red, and if we see it close below, say 22,000, that would be a bearish engulfing candle. And so what generally happens on these, we see this right here. Here's another bearish engulfing candle, and then we would likely see something kind of more like this, and then heading lower too. This is around where the 300-week moving average is, and as we've been looking at on in previous weeks, the 400-week moving average down here around this $10,000 range. Now, what could cause that or precipitate a big drop like that? Well, I mean, where Nancy Pelosi's in China, they're not very happy about that. One missile flying over the wrong spot, and I haven't confirmed this, but I was watching something earlier that they had launched some precision missiles over sort of a shot across the bow. So look, the world is very much on edge. This is not a bullish scenario or a bullish area we're in, so finding the bottom is a little bit dangerous for us right now to even contemplate. We want to see some signs of strength and holding at key support. So let's take a look at this in relation to the bull market support band. Here, this is these two lines here, as you can see, whereas let me just zoom out so everyone has some context. On a weekly basis, bull market support band, Bitcoin, when it broke back above it back here in March, after the March 2020 drop, and it's closed solidly above that, it has acted sort of as a barometer here all the way up to the highs, the market highs last year. And of course, we've been down below this most of this year. So nothing is really going to be convincing for me that we're going much higher until we're solidly above the bull market support band and above this level, this downward trend channel. And really my line in the sand is 33,000. I think we need to see a close above 33,000 to indicate that we're going to see much higher prices, but we still have this 100-day moving average here, sorry, a 100-week moving average that'll act as resistance. So there's not a lot of great signals showing that we would go higher from here. And this here is just an arrow that I had drawn. I can take that off. That was indicative of a possible reversal area. Pardon me, that we have our custom indicators here, the early reversal indicator. So this did trigger on a minor basis that we can see right in here. So I had drawn that arrow, this vertical green line here. This is something that we've created, the early reversal indicator. These arrows have been very timely calling market top bottoms, and so basically what that would signify is potentially that we did get this signal. So that's really what I'm watching for, and you might have your own signals that you're watching, and what I would advise is a confluence of other signals that confirm that direction. The more the better is what you guys should be kind of watching around for. But let me turn off some of this other stuff we'll look at in a moment, not to confuse the charts here. But yeah, so this right here is where I had a weak signal of a reversal. So what it didn't print an arrow. This is one that I would have, these are all automatically generated. So I think we will get a bit of a bounce here. It's just I don't think we're strong enough to push much higher on that. What I'm also watching is this trend strength indicator to see if it can break above this 20 line and then ultimately above this downward sloping trend line. So let's look at some of the other more traditional indicators here. We've got the weekly RSI that we can take a look at as well. And let's see there. So basically, this is what I'm predicting may happen, and push higher into this range, but still in a downtrend on the RSI. And we haven't really seen many divergences yet, which would indicate that a bottom is in. Slight push higher on the RSI, similar to the price action here. So the RSI is great for signaling divergences in these types of situations. We're not really seeing that yet. And the stochastics RSI, again, pushing higher here, I would expect some resistance. So if we push higher over the next few days, the week rather, this is an area of a potential reversal. Now, if we see this that, and then it rolls over. This is where we kind of have that reversal, the bearish engulfing candle scenario, which would signal that we could come back down lower again. So it's definitely time to be cautious. And so with that in mind, let's take a look at the daily charts here and put some of all that away. Hopefully that wasn't too painful to look at. So here's a Bitcoin chart, a daily chart of Bitcoin. Now I've drawn these zones here as the likely scenarios. So in terms of where we are now, we're right above the 21-day moving average. Haven't been there in quite a while, but we've seen this kind of happen before. We got above it briefly, saw further downside here. So really what we want to see is this back above the 50-day moving average, and again above this downward trend channel that Bitcoin has been in for many months. If we do see that and a break above, I said, 33,000 is way up here on a daily basis. On the short term, I want to see it above 25,000 really to be bullish in the short term. If we do break and close above 25,000, this range in here, then I think we push higher up to there on this 32,000 level, which would be resistance. This is this green box, at which point we would either roll over and retest more. That's the most likely scenario. Or if there's some unforeseen, very bullish news, maybe there's a ceasefire over in Russia, Ukraine, or we just see some big push higher. I don't think it would come up straight up like this. Oops. If we do hit this level, we'll see somewhat of a pullback, and then maybe this extends out. But I do believe we'll see some strong resistance up at these $43,000 levels. So 33,000 though could be a fast push up to 43,000 in a bull market sort of rally, which arguably could be a bull trap. But this is all an area, these are scenarios that I'm watching for. Now, however, what is also very likely based on this price action, the 21-day moving average is rolling under this 50-day moving average, which, as we've seen in the past, indicates further downside. So we really don't have a clear signal just yet on where things are going. If we do see this break down and not be able to get above this 50-day moving average, very powerful support and resistance, then I'm looking for this kind of a scenario to play out and maybe hitting down to these lower levels. Where's a great buy zone? Bitcoin between 12,000 and 14,000, possible great buy zone, and as well as Ethereum. We'll look at that here next. But this is what I'm watching for here on the daily chart of Bitcoin. And sort of seeing some bearish signals here. I've got a bearish early reversal indicator, and my trend strength indicator is rolling over and kind of breaking down below the support trend line. And a third one that we use often is this signal line, which very simple. When it turns from green to red, bearish, and when it turns from red to green, bullish. So three of these are lining up. So I'm leaning toward weakness and downside here in Bitcoin and the overall markets coming forward in the coming weeks. So let's take a quick look at Ethereum here, and then we'll look at some indices. This is Ethereum well, this is what I want to look at too. We looked at Bitcoin dominance. We've looked at USDT dominance. We haven't really looked at ETH dominance. Before I do that, though, just looking at a chart of Ethereum, we see that this is also not looking particularly strong right now. I think this is, I drew this last week, this red line, and it does look like it's kind of rolling over before even getting to the upper trend line resistance. So the 21-day is above the 50. So it's, I think this is either going to kind of drift higher here or likely roll over, come back and test these lower levels around 1100. So, and I'd be watching for, in anticipation of a good buying opportunity, this green arrow here is sort of an anticipatory buy zone that I'm watching. Of course, I would love it if we do see further downside personally, and my buy zone on Ethereum is around 500 to 600. And so in terms of that, I will be looking to acquire some in these lower levels. So in case it does roar off higher, then I've got some. I'm going to be legging into my IRA, but really love loading it up if we get down between 500 and 600 Ethereum. So we'll see what happens there. The Ethereum dominance, though, I want to show you this, guys. In terms of what this shows, in a long-term basis, I'll just switch to a 5-day chart. Here's what we can see is that this is in a bit of an uptrend. Not sure what happened there. It's a very strong uptrend over the past since 2018. Now, what this means is that as money is flowing back into crypto, Bitcoin dominance is going up, that means that money is flowing into Bitcoin more than other crypto. If Ethereum dominance, ETH dominance is heading upwards more by percentage basis, more money's heading into Ethereum. So pre 2018 and after the crash, we saw everyone dumping the altcoins, dumping Ethereum, and coming down into around the inflection point around early 2020, when we started seeing ETH dominance starting to drift higher. So in this regard, it's kind of flatlined a bit. Markets are down big, but it's held pretty well in terms of where things are and the overall scheme of things. So if I've set an alert, you can see here around 23%, which would be this new relative high. If we do start seeing the markets rally and Ethereum pushing higher, this would make sense because of the merge coming up. A lot of people talking about Ethereum, and some people are even saying Ethereum could flip Bitcoin in total market cap valuation. So that would be interesting, and this is an interesting clue here to keep an eye on. All right, so what else have we been watching here? USDT dominance, of course. Let me just go back to a daily. This is the inverse relationship to Bitcoin. I'll turn off our EMAs here so we can see this a bit better. So this is kind of playing out exactly as I showed last week here, that we would kind of push down lower and retest this lower levels of the trend line area. But then what I'm watching for is if USDT starts to rise from here and these key support areas, I'm gonna make sure it's on a logarithmic chart. That's important to do. And so this lines up much better here now. So basically what I'm watching for is this to bounce. As USDT dominance bounces, with Bitcoin, Ethereum, crypto will be coming lower. It's an inverse relationship. So keep an eye on that. And of course, the DXY also sort of has that inverse relationship. What's interesting here, though, is this pattern that I've been watching based on prior cycles, this blue overlay. I'll just go to like a 5 days so we can see it a little bit better. Giant cup and handle on the DXY. So we're technically breaking up. This is a cup and handle breakout on the DXY all the way back to the year 2000. Giant cup and handle. This is old school charting here, but when we see this handle pattern breaking above, which is what we're seeing, this is generally a sign of breaking much higher. And so we have seen DXY go as high as 120, 100, and right around 120 in all the way back to sort of the June 2001 area. So we could go higher certainly here, and with everything going on with China and Russia, heard recently that they have been planning and not being being very open about creating their own gold-backed currencies, gold and metals, precious metals-backed currencies. And Russia's been accumulating gold for a long time now. So they generally play chess on a much longer time frame. So what will happen in the U.S. Markets here? I don't know. I think we could see the powers that be, and we won't get into manipulation and put on my tin hat, but the U.S. has a vested interest in keeping the dollar as the U.S. reserve currency. And so there is some talk about China, Russia creating their own gold and precious metal backed reserve currency, and more countries are getting on board. Well, what we could see is a push higher on the dollar index to sort of preempt that, but all the way up in this range here, if we do push higher from here up into these ranges, that would likely coincide with a bigger drop in crypto and Bitcoin, and so we need to be aware of that. Again, inverse relationship with Bitcoin and the dollar index. So if I just move that over a bit, now let's say we see a bit of a pullback based on this prior chart pattern. Pullback on the DXY would indicate a bit of a rally in Bitcoin and cryptos, but if we see that, I think it'll be short-lived, and we'll see that reverse as the DXY pushes higher again, and that could signal and would coincide with a much bigger drop in crypto. So we're a difficult time to be predicting the future in crypto. All we can do is react to what we're seeing in the charts. New information equals new decision, but my spidey sense is still telling me that I think that we are going to see lower lows, at least another retest of the recent lows. But I don't know. I think there's something coming up our way that will push prices lower, and any one of these things could happen. So if you are going to start legging into cryptos, I would be careful and not go all in. Certainly one of the better strategies over time is to dollar cost average. And so if you were to start legging in now and we go lower, buying at key support levels. So we've drawn some of these here, basically on Ethereum, again, that 500, 600 level. Bitcoin sub 15,000, I'd say 12.5 would be a great zone, 10,000 to 12,500 on Bitcoin, which would be coinciding with the 400-week moving average. So here's a chart of Bitcoin. You see that I sort of drawn those scenarios there that we looked at previously. So that's what I'm watching for. In terms of the altcoins, don't have a huge amount of time to go through all of this. The total market cap is holding at over $1 trillion, however, and these are the scenarios here that I'm watching. So everything, in these strong zones of trendline support, we're right up at this strong resistance level, right at $1 trillion. These round numbers tend to be significant. The total market cap, the top, as we know, is right at $3 trillion. Isn't that interesting? The total market cap of crypto back at the high in November pushed right up to $3 trillion and has been dropping ever since. Pushed up to sort of right at 2 trillion and also rejected. So, my feeling is that we're hitting this 1 trillion level now as resistance. It's a bit above $1 trillion, so could go either way, but this chart is important to watch. If we do break higher, then it could be off to the races. If we can't hold here and break higher, though, likely it'll push down lower into this buy zone here, which again would be great for those of us that are looking for lower prices in crypto. Not so great for those of you and those of us holding. I certainly am holding some alts for long-term hodling, and these are some great times to be dollar cost averaging into some of these. So with that in mind, guys, not a whole lot more I want to cover today. There's not a lot happening. XTZ looks like it's a bit higher, but many of these, if not most of these, are hitting resistance in terms of their trend channels here, and not ready to suggest that we've put in a bottom myself. I think it's too early to tell, and just looking through some of these, here's the other one. So, some of the clues that we are going to head higher, though, we'll certainly watch Bitcoin as your North Star and the overall crypto market cap. But watching key resistance levels. So here's eGold, Elron, for example, in a rising wedge. If we can break above this and come back and retest, these are the patterns I'll be watching for: a break above key support and resistance, and then a retest. So really the ideal and de-risked areas to sort of hop back into some of these are on these retests of prior resistance turn support. So here it came down to support, broke down, became resistance. So these are key areas here, either by the breakout potentially or on the retest. These are great areas, especially if we're seeing a pullback to support and getting back into oversold levels, which I'm not quite seeing yet. I'm seeing nothing conclusive there. So it's better to wait and make sure that you have all the signals lined up where you're comfortable. Let's just take a skim through some of these. Now here's one. This is interesting, and just one I have on my radar. A little bit of pump in Metis. In terms of the projects, I will say this: the altcoins that are most likely to survive and thrive are the ones that have monetization strategies, aka ways to make money. In the long run, a business thrives on income and customers. And I've heard that customers are good for business. And so if there's a monetization strategy, such as processing transactions, the internet Web 2.0 is really driven by e-commerce, advertising, people buying online, and the Web 3 economy is going to be driven by other monetization models. Metis is one that has the promise of doing lots of transactions. Cadena is another one to maybe keep an eye on, and certainly Solana, which rose from $35 when I recommended it back in August of last year, 2021, a year ago, and rose up to over 500. And so, but I had some problems in terms of, but the promise and the drive behind that was the fact that they claimed they could handle 500,000 transactions per second. Now they had some growing pains, but I do believe Solana will run again. And all of these companies that either are venture-backed, like some of these are, if you see big name VCs, Sequoia, Andreessen Horowitz, do your research. These can be important clues that they have the future monetization model, or they have enough money by their VC partners to not run out of money. Big danger in bear markets is projects run out of money, or they can't really keep it going, and the team, the engineers, everybody scatters. And so that's what you want to avoid there. But here's a nice little push higher on Metis here, bit of a cup and handle breakout. This is not a recommendation to buy or sell. I'm just giving you general ideas and patterns to watch. So the reason that that looked interesting is it's up 22% today. Something's happening here. So phantom, this is a key clue too. A lot of this, what I spend my downtime doing is setting alerts on projects I've been following and to signal when they're starting to break out. So here we have Phantom Coin triggering alert just as we are here together. So let's take a look and see. Yeah, so it's interesting that these cup and handle patterns are starting to form. This could be an inverse head and shoulders, not to throw a lot of technical lingo at you or your way, but if we do see these types of patterns emerging, you know, it's not really head and shoulders, that would be sloppy head and shoulders. But keeping an eye on these, Phantom Coin is another great project that certainly had tremendous growth in the last bull cycle here, going from, I mean, when we I was looking at, we recommended it in January before it shot way up here. So if it were to go back to recent highs here, that's about 600, almost 700 or 7x ROI potential. So my next alert on Phantom Coins at 40 cents, very interesting, showing some bottoming signals here. So you know, make sure, or I would advise you have your favorites and where they would be attractive to you, setting alerts on those showing signs of strength is generally a good thing. So Phantom Coin just breaking out here. So the question is, can we sustain? Will we see further bullish behavior, or will we see some profit taking? I would imagine we'd see a little bit more profit taking coming back to these key support levels as the ideal places to buy. And that's what I'm just going to skim through here a little bit more. So, you know, we're seeing some nice bottoming patterns here, but I just don't think we have enough to say that we're out of the woods here based on everything we've looked at here today. And really important that our bellwether, our market leaders, our North Star Bitcoin has to show a little bit more strength here for me to consider getting into some of these alts, because Bitcoin's going to lead everything. And we have certainly seen this in the past, where we see the bull fake outs, money starting to flow in, pumping up the prices a little bit on the alts, and then of course Bitcoin rolls over, takes everything down with it. So think of it as the sort of the anchor on the cruise ship crypto, and so everything kind of follows what happens there. All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching. I love your comments, by the way, and if you guys do want to take a look at or look at particular projects in the future, just put that down in the comments below. Again, be sure to like the video here, and again, thanks to Max for having me on. And so you guys have a great week. We'll have, I think, some more clear signals by next week, so stay tuned. And so for now, trade smart, not often. Take profits often as well if you have them. I think it's a great time to be taking profits into these pushes higher, but with the intent of buying back in. Now, I'll just leave you with one more thing. You know, amateurs tend to go in and go all in or all out. When I say take profits, good time to take most of your profits, but always leaving some in these projects if you're a long-term holder, because generally on breakouts, if they push higher, they'll pull back. You'll have another chance to dollar cost average back in. So anyway, that's hopefully helpful for you guys, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, everyone.